Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. UPA decides on Meira Kumar as their consensus candidate for the presidential election. O Pannirselvam-led faction of AIADMK extends support to NDA candidate Ramnath Kovind ahead of the poll on July 17th. Three LET militants killed in encounter in Kashmir's Pulwama district. Protests erupt after the incident. Train services suspended in Kashmir Valley for security reasons. A 28-hour countdown starts for the launch of India's Earth observation satellite Cartosat-2. Launch vehicle PSLV C-38 to carry 30 other satellites, including 29 foreign and an Indian satellite. An Islamic State terrorists blow up landmark alNuri Mosque in Mosul, where Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed the caliphate in 2014. Iraqi Prime Minister calls it an official declaration of defeat by the terror group. Well, the opposition has decided to field former Lok Sabha Speaker Meira Kumar against NDA candidate Ramnath Kovind in the July 17th presidential election. 17 opposition parties met in the national capital on Thursday to deliberate on a consensus candidate.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi announcing former Lok Sabha Speaker Meira Kumar as the presidential candidate of the opposition. Kumar, a former diplomat and daughter of late Dalit icon Jagjeevan Ram, was the unanimous choice of the 17 opposition parties that attended the meeting.
This unity of the opposition, this unity represents the coming together of the forces which have strong ideological base. I'm going to contest the election as their representative.
With the NDA picking Ramnath Kovind, the opposition's choice makes it a Dalit versus Dalit presidential contest.
अगर कोई इनसे बेहतर और इनसे ज़्यादा योग्य कैंडिडेट आता है दलित समाज से तो वो सपोर्ट करेंगे. आज उन्होंने अपनी कंसेंट जो नाम आया उस पे दी.
On a name where everybody agrees, we should choose that name, and the name on which everybody agreed without any hesitation whatsoever was Srimati Meira Kumar.
By one and all the 17 political parties who met here today in the afternoon and have unanimously proposed the name of Shri Meira Kumar ji.
Earlier, the anti-BJP front was left considerably diminished by Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar exiting the bloc to support the NDA candidate. His alliance partner Lalu Prasad Yadav has requested him to reconsider his decision.
कि इस पर विचार करिए, ऐतिहासिक भूल नहीं करना चाहिए, गलत नहीं होना चाहिए, गलत निर्णय हो गया है आप लोगों का.
The election for the next president is to be held on July 17th, ahead of President Pranab Mukherjee demitting office on July 24th. The Election Commission has issued a notification in this regard. The process of nomination will continue till June 20th. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya TV.
Well, a day after the AIADMK Amma faction extended support for Ramnath Kovind, O Pannirselvam's faction has also voiced confidence in his candidature. Former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Pannirselvam announced that the decision was taken after talks with BJP President Amit Shah. Meanwhile, the JDU, which announced its support to Kovind on Wednesday, said that the decision to support Kovind is an isolated one and that the party is firm in its opposition to the NDA. Speaking to news agency PTI, JDU national spokesperson KC Tyagi also said that his party is bound to support Kovind's presidential bid as he discharged his duties as Bihar governor with grace. The party also rejected its ally and RJD chief Lalu Prasad's request to reconsider its support to Kovind, saying its stand is based on merit and it will stick to it. Well, 2 army jawans were martyred on Thursday by Pakistani troops which carried out an attack 600 meters inside Indian territory. The attack happened in Poonch sector of Jammu and Kashmir. One Pakistani soldier was also killed in retaliatory action. Pakistan's Border Action Team, which generally comprises special forces of the Pakistan Army and even some terrorists, carried out the attack. Pakistani troops provided them cover fire from their posts. An army official said that Indian troops killed one armed intruder whose body was recovered by the Pakistani men under heavy exchange of fire. This is said to be the third BAT action in Poonch this year. 3 terrorists were killed by security forces in a gun battle in Kakapura area of Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district on Thursday. Authorities termed the successful operation a big blow to terror outfits in the valley. Meanwhile, a civilian was also killed in protests that erupted after the encounter.
Security forces shot dead 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists on Thursday in an encounter that lasted over 6 hours in the Kakapura area of Pulwama district in South Kashmir. The Army, Special Operation Groups and CRPF conducted the joint operation. One of the dead terrorists was reportedly involved in a number of killings, including a sarpanch of Kakapura.
ये बहुत बड़ी कामयाबी है सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस के लिए, क्योंकि ये जो तीनों मिलिटेंट्स थे, इनमें से स्पेशली माजिद का इन्वॉल्वमेंट बहुत अलग अलग केसेस में रहा है. इसमें वो हमारा 182 बटालियन के एक सब इंस्पेक्टर के ऊपर फायर करना क्लोज रेंज से, और इस सब के और भी बैंक डकैती और उसके अलावा OGW की किलिंग में भी इसका हाथ था, जिसकी वजह से ये वांटेड मिलिटेंट था.
The encounter started on Wednesday night after intelligence inputs suggested that few terrorists were holed up in a house. 3 AK-47 rifles and ammunition were recovered from the terrorists. This was the second successful operation against the terror outfit within 3 days.
We got to know from intelligence sources that 2 to 3 terrorists were holed up in this house. We tried to give them an offer to surrender by announcing a safe passage for them. However, own parties were fired upon intensely from the house. In the retaliatory fire, 3 terrorists were neutralized.
In another development, a civilian was killed in clashes between residents and security forces after the encounter. Scores of protesters came out on streets and pelted stones after the incident. All trains running in Kashmir Valley were suspended for security reasons after the protests. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
4 Indian civil prisoners were released by Pakistan on Thursday and they crossed over to India at the Wagah border. Suraj Ram, Sohan Lal, Mohammad Makbul Lone and Abdul Majid have since been handed over to authorities for investigation. They are said to have inadvertently crossed the border into Pakistan and were released from Pakistani jails on completion of their sentences. The release comes amid escalating tensions between the two countries over a range of issues. India released 13 Pakistani prisoners as a goodwill gesture this month, most of whom had crossed over to India inadvertently.
मैं 10 साल बल्कि से ज़्यादा काट के आ रहा हूँ. गलती से पार कर गया तो सज़ा मिली है. जितने भी कैदी हैं उनका जो भी सज़ा होती है, सज़ा ख़त्म होने के बाद उनको फौरी तौर पे रिहा किया जाए. दोनों मुल्कों से मैं गुजारिश करता हूँ.
मुझे 4 साल सज़ा हो गई. उसके बाद मैं 6 साल के बाद छोड़ा. 2 साल उन्होंने ज़्यादा रखा.
Well, Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav on Thursday filed a mercy petition before Pakistan's Army Chief General Kumar Javed Bajwa. According to reports, Jadhav has requested that his life be spared on compassionate grounds. Earlier, Jadhav had appealed to the military appellate court, which rejected his appeal. Under Pakistani law, a person is eligible to appeal for clemency to the Chief of the Army Staff, but if rejected, the person can appeal to the President. The Hague-based International Court of Justice has stayed Pakistan from executing Jadhav. Well, the West Bengal government on Thursday urged the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha to end their agitation. This appeal came against the general shutdown that has crippled normal life in the hill town after the indefinite strike entered its 8th day. GJM supporters organized a torch rally protest demanding a separate state on Thursday. However, no untoward incident was reported from anywhere in the hills. Shops remain closed and internet services also stay suspended in the region. The district administration has registered a complaint against GJM chief Bimal Gurung, his wife and other party supporters under section 302 and 120B.
পাহাড়ের যে উন্নতি কল্পে কল্যাণমুখ কর্মসূচি যেটা মমতা বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় গ্রহণ করেছেন তাকে সকলে মিলে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য যা পাহাড়বাসীর একান্ত প্রয়োজন। পাহাড়ের শান্তি ফেরাতে হবে সবাইকে নিয়েই এবং পাহাড়বাসীর উন্নতিকে আরো অগ্রাধিকারের ভিত্তিতে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যেতে হবে।
ये हम जो कर रहे हैं वो गोरखालैंड के लिए कर रहे हैं। जो पश्चिम बंगाल सरकार स्टेट का जो सीएम है उसने हमें जितना दमन किया है, भाषा अतिक्रमण लेके जितना यहाँ आके पहाड़ में अशांति करता है, इसके विरोध में हम ये रैली निकाल रहा है।
Well, India is all set to launch a second satellite in its Earth observation Cartosat-2 series. The indigenous PSLV C-38 will launch Cartosat-2 along with 29 foreign nanosatellites tomorrow, the countdown for which began in Sriharikota today. The 28-hour countdown for the Friday morning launch of India's Earth observation satellite Cartosat-2 began on Thursday morning. Launch vehicle PSLV C-38 will carry Cartosat-2 and 30 other satellites, including 29 foreign and 1 Indian satellite. PSLV C-38 will take off on its 40th flight at 9:29 a.m. on Friday from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh, launching the 702-kilogram Cartosat-2 series satellite into a 505-kilometer polar sun synchronous orbit. The 29 nano-satellites belong to 14 countries, including Austria, Belgium, Chile, United Kingdom and the United States of America. The 30 satellites will together weigh 243 kilograms, and the total weight of all 31 satellites, including Cartosat, is about 955 kilograms. The Cartosat-2 series satellite is a remote satellite. The imagery sent by it will be useful for cartographic applications, urban and rural applications, coastal land use and regulation, utility management like road network monitoring, water distribution and creation of land use maps. The international satellites are being launched as part of the commercial arrangements between ISRO's commercial arm, the Antrix Corporation Limited, and its international customers. 160 crore rupees has been allocated for the project. Cartosat-1, the first in the series of Earth observation satellites, was launched on May 5, 2005, followed by Cartosat-2 on January 10, 2007. ISRO also plans to design, develop and launch Cartosat-3 and OceanSat-3. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, the benchmark Sensex hit a record high of 31,494 on Thursday, recording a surge of over 200 points in intraday trade. The 30-share index broke its previous lifetime high of 31,430.32 that it touched on June 6th and closed at 31,290.74. The 50-share NSE Nifty also gained 46.30 points at 9,679.90 and then slipped 3.6 points to 9,630. This gains followed a series of market-friendly measures taken by the Securities and Exchange Board of India that included relaxing entry norms for overseas investors. SEBI also eased its takeover norms for restructuring listed companies with stressed assets, a move that is expected to bolster efforts for bad loan resolution. The biggest gainers were HDFC, Sun Pharma, Reliance Industries and Axis Bank. Well, let's now take a look at all the other national developments in our segment Nationwide. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who left on a 3-day visit to Moscow yesterday, will co-chair the 7th meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission with his Russian counterpart, General Sergei Shoigu. India and Russia will also explore further ramping up of bilateral defense and security cooperation. 5 Tamil Nadu fishermen were arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy for allegedly fishing in the island nation's territorial waters. According to the officials, they were arrested off Neduntivu and were later taken to Kakensutarai to be lodged in a prison. Farmers protesting land acquisition for a proposed airport at Nevali set vehicles on fire. They also blocked a busy road in the area by throwing burning tires, leaving 4 policemen injured. According to a defense spokesperson, the state government had started acquiring land in the area to set up the proposed airport, which the farmers are opposing. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The cement that is being manufactured has got a particular 2 or 3 drawbacks. One is it has to use naturally available materials. 1 ton of CO2, close to 1 ton is being emitted for 1 ton of carbon, 1 ton of cement being produced. Institutes in this country as well as all over the world has stumbled upon what is called another material called as a polymer, which may revolutionize this particular thing.
Watch Eureka with Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan, Director CSIR, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, India has accused the UN Security Council and the international community of tending to ignore terrorists and their backers ravaging Afghanistan. During a debate on the situation in Afghanistan, India's permanent representative to the UN, Syed Akbaruddin, said the international community's collective inability and unwillingness to see the problem for what it has inflicted huge costs on the people of Afghanistan. The Council has even shied away from condemning some of the terrorist attacks in Afghanistan. Akbaruddin also said that the terrorist attacks in Afghanistan were played down as the work of anti-government elements or the result of civil and political conflicts. He also hinted at Pakistan having a hand in what happens in Afghanistan. He even listed questions that the Security Council and the world should ask, and those would point to Pakistan's role. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has said that India is working with ASEAN to evolve regional security architecture in the Asia-Pacific to find collaborative solutions to emerging and non-traditional challenges. She was speaking at the ASEAN-India partnership, strengthening the Indian diaspora in ASEAN countries and encouraging historical and cultural linkages.
External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Thursday asserted that bilateral trade has picked up between India and the ASEAN after 2 years of slow growth. Her remarks come in the backdrop of India being accused of dragging its feet in the Regional Cooperation Economic Partnership talks. Swaraj said efforts are underway to enhance physical connectivity by land, air and sea.
After almost 2 years of slow growth, ASEAN-India trade is now back on track with an increase of 8% in 2016-17 and with India's exports to ASEAN having increased by almost 20% in 2016-17.
The minister said enhancing maritime cooperation and security is a focus area for both ASEAN and India. In her address on India-ASEAN partnership for the think tank research and information system, the minister listed terror financing, arms smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering and cybercrime as major challenges facing the region. India and ASEAN, she added, are working to combat them.
Enhancing maritime cooperation and security has been an area of focus for both ASEAN and India. Combating drug abuse and drug trafficking remains a major challenge in the region.
Swaraj also spoke about India's cultural links as well as the influence of Hinduism in some ASEAN nations. Now Vikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the White House appointed Kenneth as the new US ambassador to India. He will replace Richard Verma. Juster is a top economic official of US President Donald Trump and an expert on India. According to the White House, Juster's appointment is eminently qualified for the position. Juster is currently serving as Deputy Assistant to the US President for International Economic Affairs and Deputy Director of the National Economic Council. Well, the Islamic State militant group has blown up the Great Mosque of alNuri in Mosul. Aerial photos have shown that the mosque and minaret have been largely destroyed. It is noteworthy that the mosque is an ancient landmark where IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed a caliphate in 2014. However, IS claims that US aircraft destroyed the complex. The Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi said blowing up the mosque was an official declaration of defeat by IS. Meanwhile, the US military said that the Islamic State had destroyed one of Mosul and Iraq's great treasures. The development comes as Iraqi forces march on in their offensive to retake Mosul, which was launched in October last year. The UN says that the militant group may be holding more than 1 lakh people in Mosul as human shields, while Iraqi government announced that the full liberation of eastern Mosul in January this year. The west of the city has presented a more difficult challenge. Well, at least 26 people were killed and over 60 injured after a car exploded in Afghanistan's Helmand province. The blast took place when soldiers, government employees and other civilians were linking up outside a bank to collect their salaries. Emergency workers and volunteers were helping to ferry the injured to local hospitals in makeshift ambulances and civilian cars. This was the latest in a series of attacks in Afghanistan during the holy month of Ramadan. No group claimed responsibility for the attack. However, the Taliban and the Islamic State have made similar attacks in the past. The death toll is also expected to rise. Well, here's a roundup of the other developments from across the globe in Global Buzz. Tests on tar blocks following the Grenfell tar fire showed that cladding on a number of buildings was combustible. Prime Minister Theresa May said that local authorities and fire services concerned are taking all possible steps to ensure the buildings are safe and residents have been informed. At least 58 people are missing and presumed dead after the devastating blaze struck the West London Tower block on Wednesday. Foreign ministers, top security and intelligence officials from the Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia met on Thursday afternoon to discuss ways to combat extremism. The trilateral meeting focused on the fight against extremism, an urgent matter especially for the country because of the IS-linked terrorist operations in Marawi. The US will provide $7.5 million to ensure access to affordable and reliable energy. The Ministry of Science and Technology and Industry will match the commitment of US's Department of Energy, bringing the total commitment to USD 30 million. This new consortium demonstrates the US and Indian commitments to ensuring access to affordable and reliable energy in both countries. The main forest fires raging in Portugal since the weekend have been brought under control on Thursday. The fire has killed more than 60 people. The giant blaze broke out initially at Pedrogua Grande and spread to adjacent areas. Tropical storm Cindy made landfall in southwestern Louisiana on early Thursday morning, according to the National Hurricane Center. Tropical storm Cindy is expected to weaken over the next 48 hours as it moves further inland. Cindy was located 30 miles west-southwest of Lake Charles, LA at 4 a.m. Thursday, it has maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour and is moving north at 12 miles per hour. Well, let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with some news from the world of sports in Sports Beat. Indian shuttlers B. Sai Praneeth and Kidambi Srikanth won their respective round 2 matches to enter into the quarterfinals of the Australia Open Super Series on Thursday. While Praneeth registered a 21-15, 18-21, 21-13 win over China's Wang Yuxiang, Srikanth defeated world number 1 Son Wan Ho 15-21, 21-13, 21-13. Meanwhile, PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal also advanced to the quarterfinals of the women's singles competition. New Zealand wicketkeeper Luke Ronchi announced his retirement from international cricket. Earlier, Ronchi played for Australia but came into his own native New Zealand in 2013. Ronchi will be available to play for Wellington and on the domestic T20 circuit around the world, with his next assignment coming in the NatWest T20 Blast for Leicestershire. A former Chelsea attacker was banned for 8 games by the Chinese Football Association on Thursday for inciting a mass brawl in the Chinese Super League between his Shanghai SIPG side and opponents Guangzhou R&F. After ex-Chelsea man Oscar appeared twice to hurl the ball intentionally at Guangzhou players on Sunday, he was rushed by several opponents. Oscar fell to the ground and a commotion broke out. Liverpool is set to bring Roma's former Chelsea winger Mohamed Saleh. The Roma player will have a medical with Liverpool on Thursday, with his transfer fee estimated at between £34 million to £39 million. The 25-year-old Egyptian has been the prime target of Jurgen Klopp as he prepares for next season's Champions League. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.